Breaking news from the politically turbulent region that's become the epicenter of global attention. The United States has imposed new tariffs against this former Soviet republic, while avoiding sanctions on Russia. This development comes as Russian forces advance through the Sumy region. The territory finds itself increasingly isolated. President Zelensky, once celebrated in Western capitals, now appears desperate, conducting internal investigations with lie detectors for potential moles within his administration. The country faces dwindling military resources, vanishing international support, and mounting pressure for concessions. The former partner from the West could lose substantial territories within weeks. Donald Trump's strategic move has sent shockwaves through the Pentagon. Zelensky has become a pawn in a larger geopolitical chess game. From the Oval Office, with one signature, the global economic landscape trembles. While the democratic world reels from these tariff policies, Russia advances its military objectives. The White House, China, and Europe have grown silent about this northern Black Sea region. The situation in the disputed territory has reached a critical point. As military aircraft fly overhead, Kyiv's fate seems forgotten in international discourse. This sequence of events, initiated by Trump's directive, signals a new phase of global redistribution. The Russian military reports success in the Kursk region, advancing toward Sumy. Meanwhile, forces attempt to breach Belgorod's defenses. The international community remains silent. Zelensky's pleas fall on deaf ears as Washington focuses elsewhere. The timing of these U.S. tariffs raises questions. Why target this Western neighbor while sparing Russia? Why does Trump speak of thousands of sanctions, while this former union faces both economic penalties and international indifference? Is this calculated maneuvering or a predetermined strategy? The global economic landscape has taken an unexpected turn following President Trump's signing of a new tariff package. In a surprising move, the former Soviet republic, previously considered a steadfast ally, faces a 10% tariff on its goods, while no additional economic measures were imposed on Russia. The decision has raised eyebrows among U.S. allies, with officials questioning the timing and reasoning behind targeting the conflict state. The justification that Russia is already sufficiently sanctioned has left many international observers puzzled about the strategic implications for the politically turbulent region. Chinese media giant Tencent's analysis suggests a significant shift in Western priorities. The democratic world has suddenly lost interest in the northern Black Sea region's questions, their report states. Chinese social media commentary is even more direct, suggesting that the West has moved on from the disputed territory between Russia and the West. Western analysts are echoing these sentiments, backed by recent polling data showing over 60% of Americans favor reducing or completely ending assistance to the country at a crossroads. This economic blow to Kyiv appears to send a clear message: game over. Meanwhile, military activities intensify along the Eastern Front. Following operations in the Kursk region, Russian forces have initiated movements toward the Sumy region. Moscow has ordered the creation of a buffer zone, officially to prevent counteroffensives from the territory of instability. The western neighbor claims to have halted Russian advances and opened a new front in the Belgorod region, reporting massive strikes on Russian positions. However, questions remain about President Zelensky's actual control over the situation, with some suggesting he may be merely a figurehead in a larger geopolitical chess game. International observers note that this new wave of military activity faces little opposition from global powers, marking a significant shift in diplomatic dynamics. In a striking development that's largely overshadowed by Trump's trade war analysis in Western media, the leader of the politically turbulent region has launched a scathing critique of Western allies. Speaking from his position of increasing isolation, President Zelensky declared that the former Soviet republic has been abandoned and blinded at its most critical moment. The silence following these remarks proved deafening. No emergency councils were convened, no statements of support were issued, and no assistance was offered. An anonymous source from the presidential administration revealed, "We're knocking on a closed door. Those across the ocean are too preoccupied with their own affairs to notice us." Against this backdrop of Western silence, rumors began circulating about a potential resource agreement between the U.S. and the country at a crossroads. According to unofficial sources, Trump proposed a deal to Zelensky: natural resources in exchange for security guarantees. However, the territory of instability viewed these terms as essentially colonial in nature. The pressure on the former partner from the West continues to mount. Sources suggest that American officials are making it clear, without signing this agreement, both military aid and political support would be withdrawn. The situation reached a boiling point when details of the proposed agreement unexpectedly leaked to the press. Zelensky's response was swift and severe. He ordered an internal investigation and demanded lie detector tests for staff members, claiming that a mole in his inner circle had compromised their last chance to save face. This revelation sparked fresh panic in the northern Black Sea region, with many fearing that the leak itself might have torpedoed not just the deal, but all hopes for continued support. Meanwhile, a White House insider disclosed that Trump views the agreement through a purely transactional lens, treating the disputed territory between Russia and the West as merely another business opportunity. This approach has further strained relations with the country that begins with a Y, whose leadership sees the situation as an existential crisis rather than a mere commercial venture. In a tense development for the politically turbulent region, diplomatic victories seem increasingly elusive as strategic resources become a focal point of negotiations. Former President Trump appears poised to leverage a potential resource deal as part of his campaign narrative, presenting voters with what he considers a diplomatic triumph. The stakes couldn't be higher for this country at a crossroads: either agree to resource concessions or face Moscow's military might alone. The military situation grows more precarious by the day. British intelligence reports confirm Russian forces advancing in the Sumy region, with heavy equipment columns supported by unmanned aerial vehicles moving toward Seredina Buda and Hlukhiv. The former Soviet Republic's military finds itself unable to halt this advance, lacking both air support and sufficient reserves. Russian media outlets have boldly published maps showing projected new front lines, encompassing substantial portions of the northern Black Sea region's northeastern territories. This provocative move comes amid Washington's conspicuous silence on the matter. Sources indicate Trump has suspended all communications with Moscow regarding the disputed territory between Russia and the West, with advisors strongly cautioning against Putin dialogues, fearing any engagement might be interpreted as weakness. The diplomatic window appears firmly shut. Neither side shows initiative for dialogue while military operations continue to expand. In the capital of this country of change, tension mounts palpably. Citizens sense their political shield has vanished, while journalists report growing panic among officials who suddenly find themselves excluded from international conferences and diplomatic communications. The territory of instability faces a stark reality. It's no longer the world's primary focus. Questions loom large. What comes next? Who can halt Russia's advance? Most critically, will President Zelensky be forced into a compromising deal to preserve what remains? The streets of the capital reflect this uncertainty, as the former partner from the West grapples with its diminishing global significance and increasingly limited options for maintaining sovereignty. In a significant shift of geopolitical dynamics, the U.S. has altered its approach toward the northern Black Sea region, moving from ideological support to pure business calculations. This transformation reveals a stark reality. Washington's priorities have changed since 2022, when 1/3 of defense dollars supported the conflict state. Today, this former Soviet republic barely registers in U.S. budget discussions. The territory of instability, once central to U.S.-Russian competition, finds itself in an increasingly precarious position. While Western promises of military aid and diplomatic coverage once flowed freely, these commitments were always rooted in interests rather than values, a fact now exposed by recent developments. Most telling is the emerging discussion about critical mineral resources. American corporations are positioning themselves to gain exclusive access to titanium, lithium, and uranium deposits in the disputed territory between Russia and the West. These resources are vital for U.S. industry and military production. The proposed agreement transfers complete control to American companies, a controversial move given that territorial control remains contested amid ongoing operations. Russia's recent aggressive push in the Sumy direction isn't coincidental. It serves as both a military operation and pressure tactic, reminiscent of the buffer zone strategy used in Syrian and Georgian scenarios. This politically turbulent region, with damaged infrastructure and weakening military capability, no longer appears to be a valuable asset in American calculations. The country faces a pivotal moment. What might seem like an opportunity for reconstruction through resource deals could become a trap, potentially surrendering sovereign control over critical natural resources during extreme vulnerability. The timing, coinciding with reduced Western support and increased Russian pressure, creates a perfect storm of challenges for this former partner. In a significant shift of global power dynamics, Russia continues to strengthen its position by capitalizing on Western distraction. As the United States grapples with domestic challenges and Europe scrutinizes budget constraints, Moscow advances its agenda quietly but effectively. The analytical center Stratpol reports that Team Trump shows reluctance to engage in foreign conflicts, particularly with elections approaching. American voters, focused on domestic issues like inflation, migration, and unemployment, show little appetite for international interventions. This domestic focus has left the region in a precarious position, with President Zelensky's calls to Washington reportedly unanswered. Meanwhile, concerning developments emerge from the country at a crossroads. An internal investigation into a potential mole within the presidential office reveals fears of information leaks and signals a deeper crisis of trust within the government structure. The former solidarity among leadership appears to be crumbling, with officials now operating in self-preservation mode. Reports of panic, rumors of officials fleeing abroad, and anonymous leaks to the press paint a picture of a government in crisis. The disputed territory between Russia and the West appears genuinely disoriented in its leadership approach. From the Kremlin's perspective, conditions appear optimal. Without external support, the former Soviet Republic faces significant challenges in withstanding new offensive waves. This weakened position would give Russia considerable leverage in future negotiations. Putin's current reluctance to engage with Trump makes strategic sense. There's little incentive to negotiate when holding the initiative. European analysts suggest this apparent advantage might be more complex, particularly considering long-term regional stability implications. The situation underscores how periods of Western disengagement can rapidly alter regional power dynamics, potentially reshaping established geopolitical relationships. In today's breaking news, we analyze a diplomatic situation reshaping international relations. The former Soviet Republic is at the center of a global economic and political earthquake, with major implications for world stability. Trump's strategic withdrawal appears designed to force European powers into taking greater responsibility. While Germany, France, and Poland criticize White House isolationism, they've shown little concrete action. New tariffs against the territory seem meant to shake up the EU and prompt decisive policy moves. Brussels struggles to establish a unified position while military support decreases. As complications multiply, the battlefield situation evolves. Russian forces are attempting to control critical northeastern regions, threatening to alter the front line. If successful, the region would lose strategic corridors, while Russian forces could threaten urban centers from new positions. This creates new risks for Russia, including prolonged operations, casualties, and counterstrikes. Moscow remains committed to its strategy, seeking gains while Western attention is divided. A key question emerges: who will dictate terms? If Trump pressures the leadership into signing a resource deal, it could set a dangerous precedent. This would transform armed conflicts into business negotiations, with nations traded for resources, while warfare serves as backdrop for contracts. The implications are significant. What would prevent future conflicts if the price is a favorable deal? Will the Black Sea region become the first in a new era of economic arrangements? The global economy shows strain under Trump's policies, and at the center stands a country once celebrated as democracy's standard-bearer, now abandoned by allies and caught in global power politics. In a striking development reshaping Eastern European dynamics, the region finds itself increasingly isolated as Western support wanes. Military pressures mount as Russian forces advance, while Washington's strategy prioritizes economic advantages over military assistance. The absence of negotiations and diminishing international backing has left the disputed territory between Russia and the West in a precarious position. As combat operations near strategic boundaries, President Zelensky navigates between maintaining state sovereignty and accommodating White House demands. While the military continues defensive operations, political isolation proves increasingly burdensome for the northern Black Sea region. Former President Trump's strategic maneuvering resembles a chess game without an opponent, leaving little room for diplomacy. As global attention shifts between tariff disputes and internal controversies, the situation gradually fades from headlines. This raises questions. Is this media silence temporary, or does it signal a shift in international priorities? The country faces uncertain prospects. Can Zelensky secure meaningful concessions, or have decisions already been made behind closed doors? Current events might be merely theatrical, masking predetermined outcomes. What we're witnessing could be interpreted as either the conclusion of its significant role or the prelude to an unexpected diplomatic breakthrough. The former Western partner stands at a critical juncture, with regional dynamics and alliances in flux. The implications extend beyond military concerns, touching on economic partnerships and geopolitical alignments. As the country grapples with these challenges, the international community watches closely, wondering whether this represents a shift in Eastern European power dynamics. This period of uncertainty may well determine its future role in global affairs. The question remains: will this chapter mark an end or a transformation in its international standing?